nothing to add.
Okay. I'm going to touch on this one more time from a different perspective, just to drive the point home. The Tribune Company has recently been taken over by a man named Sam Zell, who is implementing the same sort of reorganization, where he actually, his CEO, Randy Michaels, says to the public that their plan for their newspapers in the future is to cut as much of their content as possible and bring it on a 50-50 ratio with their advertising as far as their newsprint space. And I'm going to read the quote from him. He says, "We always look at the productivity of our salespeople, but nobody's ever said, how many column inches does a journalist write?" He noted the average Tribune journalist in Los Angeles produces about 51 pages of content a year, compared to about 300 pages in Hartford or Baltimore. Although he acknowledged that investigative and in-depth reporting takes more time. Then, quote, "When you get into the individuals, you find that you can eliminate a fair number of people while eliminating not very much content. While other factors have to be taken into account," he said, "we believe we can save a lot of money and not lose a lot of productivity." And obviously, the question here is, what is the quality of that content that remains once you've cut your budget to that degree? My question, I guess, was, brain fart.
You want a funny Sam Zell story real quick?
What's that?
You want a funny Sam Zell story?
Yeah, go ahead.
I used to work for a paper that got eaten up by Tribune. Sam Zell, when he bought the Tribune chain, and he really bought it, in a lot of cases, looking at turning these buildings into condos. I'm not making this up. He wanted to move news staffs into, I guess, business parks, because a lot of newspapers are in beautiful buildings in desirable parts of town. Anyway, he met with the staff at the Orange County Register, which was agonizing at that point about whether they should accept ads from adult-oriented businesses, as Gambit and the alt weeklies do, because it makes a lot of money. And when they asked Zell whether they thought that would be an appropriate sort of thing, he said to a staff of reporters, "What kind of man doesn't want to look at pussy?"
That's a very
so that's the model he's looking at, and that's how much respect he has for the women that work for him. That's for sure.
What I wanted to lead into with this is I brought a visual aid with me. This is a copy of the Monday morning Times-Picayune opinion page. I think, well, if you're looking for your own copy of archives of the Times-Picayune, I advise you to crack open the nearest flood wall in New Orleans. There's plenty to be had there. What the Times-Picayune has done is they've downsized their daily opinion, or their Monday opinion page. They've eliminated all of the, regular columnists, some of which, end up being piped in from the national syndicated guys. They still print a few letters. They have very short, daily opinions. And then they've taken up the rest of the space with a soft little, monologues vignette and some pictures. And one of the things that Zell said, actually, was when they asked him how he's going to replace that content, he said, well, I'm going to bring maps, charts, numbers, whatever we can just fill space with, instead of actually providing people with useful conversation,
It's called making sausage. That's what we call it. What Sam Zell wants you to do is make as much sausage as possible. And it doesn't matter what kind of quality of journalism.
And I just don't understand why the corporate world who runs these, newspapers and TV stations like a Sam Zell just don't get it. If you put crap out there, no one's going to read it, and you're not going to make any money. It takes money to spend money. You're much better off investing in quality journalism, and then people are smarter than these guys give them credit for, and they're not going to watch crap, and they're not going to read crap. There's too many other places to go get it right now.
Do you feel like any of this is justified, strategically by the presence of so much opinion on the internet? Do people making these decisions say, oh, well, you'll get all the conversation from some Yahoo blogger somewhere, so we might as well.
I don't think that. I think more so than anything, it is, the internet allows people to get information right away. So you need to do things to try to get people to watch or read, and sometimes, especially from the TV point of view, there's a lot of TV stations that just don't get it and think, showing something is going to get them viewers, and in the end it doesn't.
Does WWL ever do like video release reports?
What's that? Do
like
what?
Video release reports?
No, we do not do VNRs, no.
I think newspapers are similar to the airline industry these days too, in the sense that they're failing, they don't know why they're failing, but the answer is to cut from the bottom, which is insane, because you've still got the same people at the top that don't know how to make money, and they're the ones that are making all the money.
Yeah, I think there is kind of a stuck in a hole but still digging with the same shovel mentality with these newspapers. I see a lot of fat to trim, but it's not with the reporter staff.
Well, one of the things I notice with when they're, you're trying to put a story out is, like, Noah was a great story, because you had an independent blogger and, Karen and Sarah are out there finding this information, and then it started, Eli was bringing it out, and then Lee, of course, did the story. And I think that was really important, but what's interesting to me is that, the budget for that was $3.6 million. And, it was indicative of some problems with the city. But by the same token, you could put a story out that shows government, not crime, which Noah seems to have those elements, but you could put a story out that shows a program that's 100 times that. But because it's wrapped in bureaucracy and it's moving lethargically, it's not sexy. And it's hard to bring the reader and the viewer into that story. And that's what I would ask actually of the audience is, how do we engage them in those kinds